Arkady was annoyed by his wife Asha. He had not yet figured out his feelings, but he looked at Asha differently. He looked differently, to put it mildly. He couldn't see her. What has changed in her during these 8 years of their life together? Still the same Aska. She gained a little weight, but it even suited her. It gave her softness and femininity. Rays of wrinkles appeared in the corners of her eyes. Wrinkles from laughter, because his wife is a laugher. Perhaps her legs became a little plump, and in general she somehow got a little fat. Arkady concluded. She turned into such a mother hen, a housewife. Arkady grinned. The apartment is clean. You won't break into it. The food is always prepared. The children are well groomed and developed beyond their years, because Aska works with them and takes them to all sorts of activities and is always well groomed herself. She even packs lunches for me at work. Does she also work at the same time? And when does she manage to do all this? But I'm tired of her and I don't want her anymore. I don't want her. Asha saw that something was happening to Arkady, but couldn't understand what. Did he lose interest in her, or was he just tired? Arkasha, you should go on vacation. I wouldn't wait for the summer. I'd go to a rest home. I see you're tired. At the children, at me. Asha smiled. That smile of hers now infuriated him. Even the way she stood, the way she sat, even the fact that she was breathing next to him irritated him. He tried not to look at her, so as not to lose his temper and offend her again. Although he really wanted to offend her, so that she would finally shut up and he would not hear her voice. Arkady listened to Asha, took a vacation and went to a rest home. Maybe I'm really tired and I need a change of scenery, Arkady thought. And I'll return home and Aska for me will become the same Aska that I adored. During the vacation, Arkady calmed down, and this gave him confidence in the correctness of the unplanned vacation. He rested to the fullest, went on excursions, went to the pool, to the gym, and in the evening to a bar or a disco. On the 4th day of rest, he met Lida. Lida was young and beautiful, emotional, and, one might say, nervous. Arkady liked everything about her, even the fact that she lived in the suburbs of his hometown. Good they can continue their romance. She was the complete opposite of his balanced, predictable wife. On vacation, there is no time for a candy bouquet period, and therefore, their romance flared up and flared up brighter and brighter. They no longer parted. Sometimes after sex, she began to become hysterical. Arkasha, when I think that I will share you with your wife. Lida shed tears. I don't want to live. I love you so much. I love you so much. Am I the owner? Lida asked the question and was already laughing. Tell me, am I the owner? Receiving no answer, she kissed Arkady. You're my love, he whispered in her ear. Time flies quickly on vacation, and now it's time to return home to work. After the rest, Asha was no longer so annoyed by Arkady because he had Lida, his outlet, his salvation, his little whim, and he seems to love her. And Asha, what about Asha? She is his wife, the mother of his children. They have a common house. In general, she suits him so far. He could even sometimes make her happy by being close to him, and he is not going to ruin everything so quickly. You need to live with hens, but love people like Lida, thought Arkady. And then we'll see how everything will turn out. And it turned out in a way that Arkady had not planned at all. He had an attack of appendicitis. He was taken to the ambulance and operated on. Asha ran home after work, prepared broth, rose hip decoction, and ran to her husband in the hospital. Arkady's young body, quickly he was recovering, and now he could go out into the yard for a walk, sit on a bench, in the fresh air. It was the middle of May, and the park around the hospital pleased with its fresh greenery, the aroma of lilac, not like in the ward, which was choked by the smell of bleach. Day. Asha asked to leave work a little early, prepared pureed soup and jelly for Arkasha, and came to her husband. Arkady was not in the ward, and his roommate said that someone came to see her husband and they were walking in the hospital courtyard. Asha put the bag of food on the nightstand next to her husband's bed and went out into the yard. The weather is wonderful. Let's sit in the fresh air with Arkasha for an hour and I'll run home, thought Asha. She looked around, walked here and there, but did not find her husband. Asha recognized him by his red t-shirt. They stood behind the lattice fence of the hospital. Arkady stood with his back to the fence and did not see Asha, and a beautiful young woman hugged her husband. Tears black from mascara flowed down the girl's cheeks. She cried and said, "Poor, poor Arkasha, are you in pain? I feel so sorry for you. It would be better if I had an operation instead of you." Arkady answered her something, but Asha did not hear, because he spoke quietly. But the girl spoke in such a way that not only Asha, but also others could hear her. But there was no one around. The girl saw Asha and began to speak even louder. "What should I bring you to eat next time?" Asha heard her name from her husband's lips, and the girl continued to hang on her husband. She was already looking straight at Asha, and it was clear to Asha that the girl knew her by sight. "Food from the hands of an unloved woman will not do you any good, Arkasha. Tomorrow I'll bring you steamed cutlets. Asha understood that these words were intended not for Arkady, but for her, because the girl stopped shedding tears and looked at Asha without blinking. "If you want, after the hospital, move to me. I will take care of you." Inside Asha, everything was boiling with resentment, anger. She could not stand it and shouted, "He will move to you." Arkady shuddered and turned around. What he was experiencing at that moment was not clear to Asha, and she was not going to understand it. "I will take care of it." "Take him away. I don't need him," Asha added, then turned around and walked out of the hospital. It seemed to her that a metal hoop was squeezing her chest. She was so painful and bitter. Tears rolled down by themselves, but she did not walk, but ran, as if she could escape from this. Since that evening, Asha has not visited her husband in the hospital. He called her and she hung up. Asha did not want to hear him. Arkady returned home angry and started yelling at Asya from the doorway. "Why aren't you answering my calls? You betrayed me. I'm after surgery, and you even stopped visiting me. How am I? What's wrong with me? You don't care. We lived for 8 years, and it turns out I didn't know you. You betrayed me. You simply abandoned me in difficult times." Asya was silent. She noticed that he was trying not to look at her. Asya tightly closed the door to the nursery. "The children don't need to hear all this." "Go away," she said almost in a whisper. "Don't you dare yell at me. Just get out." This whisper had a startling effect on Arkady. He clearly did not expect that he would be asked to take his things on the way out. "I can't lift anything heavy now. I'll come for my things later," he said, and headed out. Children ran out of the nursery shouting, "Dad, Dad, he's arrived." But Arkady didn't even turn around at his son's cries. He sharply slammed the front door, and the children looked in bewilderment first at their mother, then at the door that had just slammed shut. "Let's go watch Goodnight Kids," said Asia. "I'll read you a book before bed and on the side." The next day, Asha's mother-in-law came to see her. "Hello, Asha," she began from the doorway, and without waiting for a return greeting, continued her prepared speech. "What is this being done? Arkasha has not yet recovered from the operation, and you kicked him out of the house. By the way, this is his apartment too. He came to me. I have one room. Where should we fit? Why did he come to you? He has a lover who will welcome him with open arms. Young, beautiful, I would go to her. Why did he come to his disgusted wife and then run to complain to his mother? Well, you too don't shoot from the shoulder. Arkasha told me everything. It turns out you even stopped visiting him. It's betrayal to leave your sick husband. I've already heard this somewhere, said Asya. His mistress visited him. Is this not enough for him? Don't compare. You are a wife and you are obliged. Men, they are all like that. They change everything, but we women should be wiser. We must forgive and save the family, save the father for the children. Yes, he came and didn't even look at the children. He's offended that you did this to him, continued the mother-in-law. But I'm not supposed to be offended. I'm a wife. I'm made of iron. And you, Asya, don't be silly. Think before you become a divorcee. A divorced woman is like a saucepan without a lid. Everyone tries to spit in it. Times are different now, Tamara Semyonovna. No one cares whether you are divorced or not, and I cannot and will not live in such humiliation. You know, my Vanya cheated on me. Sometimes he even put his fist on me, and I forgave. Lived for the sake of the children and did not get divorced. Sometimes she hated him, and when he died, she understood what it meant. With a fool it's bad, but without a fool it's even worse. So don't be fidgety, girl. Think about everything carefully, forgive him, and he will forgive you. Give the father back to the children. Call Arkasha and just say, come back. I know he will return. He will forgive your betrayal and return. Asya realized that it was useless to prove anything to her mother-in-law. She will talk her way. She wanted Tamara Semyonovna to leave quickly, but she went to talk to her grandchildren, stayed for dinner, and only then left. A week later, Arkady decided to visit the children. I'm going to the children, he said as soon as Asya opened the door for him. Hey, you ninja turtles, Arkady shouted cheerfully. Get ready. Let's go to the circus. Hooray, hooray, Dad has come. Let's go to the circus. The boys rejoiced. Asya, help them get dressed, otherwise the show is in an hour. I wouldn't be late. After the circus performance, the children came excited, emotional, and interrupting each other, telling their mother about everything that amazed them in the circus. Arkady stood in the hallway with a cake and a bouquet of flowers and smiled contentedly. Asya, take the flowers for you, Arkady smiled, and accept the cake. We'll drink tea. He saw that Asya was ignoring him, and then the children came to his rescue. The younger Kostya grabbed the bouquet from his father's hands and handed it to Asya. She could not help but accept the flowers from the child's hands. Mom, look what beautiful flowers Dad bought, Kostya squealed. I chose these beautiful ones. No, said Seryozha. I was the first to choose them. Well, that's it, Asya reassured the children. You chose beautiful flowers together, thank you. We want a cake, let's open it already, Seryozha insisted. Kostya and I also chose the cake. Arkady went into the kitchen and sat smiling, waiting for tea and cake. He believed that he had chosen the right tactics for reconciliation with his wife. She will see how the children rejoice at meeting their father, and Asya will agree to continue their life together. Arkady knew that Aska's children came first, and for their sake she would do a lot, and maybe even do anything. After eating cake, the children went to their room. Asya immediately changed her face and looking straight at Arkady said, It's time for you to leave, Daddy. The role of Dad was successfully played, and now I don't want to see you anymore. I mean it from the heart, S. Look how happy the boys are. For as long as we've lived, you and the children never went anywhere, but here you gave them such a holiday. Do you really think that I will believe that this whole circus is for the sake of the children? And for you and me? This is closer to the truth, Asya answered angrily. Don't strain yourself. You and I no longer exist, and there never will be. You are free. No need to try to return something that cannot be returned. And then, why do you need a traitor? Arkady knew his predictable wife well. It's hard to piss her off. But if she's decided on something, then there's no point in pouring oil into her ears. You promise other women, you tell a big lie, they are happy to believe, although they know that it is a lie, but not his wife. Arkady realized that his wife had put an end to their relationship. You can come to the children, forget about me. No, not everything. Arkady got angry. You and I have a shared apartment. Let's sell it and split the money. I have nowhere to go with the children, said Asya. You should have thought about this first before you told me no. Or can you buy my part of the apartment from me? I can't buy it from you yet. If you wait, I'll try to find the money. I'm not going to wait. Vacate the room that's allotted to me by square. I'll put it up for sale. Arkady both triumphed and gloated over the surprise he had prepared for his ex. I'll sell my room and buy myself an apartment. Arkady continued to get on Asya's nerves. Okay, I saved the money just in case and didn't keep it in the bank so that you wouldn't lay your paw on it. Now I can buy myself a good apartment. And I spent all my earned money on my family, Asya said sadly. Arkady could not sell the room for a long time. Buyers came, but something did not suit them. Either the children are small and noisy, or the price is too high for such a room, or the 8th floor is high, or the window faces the south and it will be very hot in the summer. Everyone has their own reasons, but there were buyers. A young man was buying a room for his grandmother. Grandma was happy with everything. I'm cold all the time, and I'm glad that there will be sunshine in my room all day. The room is small, but that's okay. I'm old, and there's enough cleaning here. But as for the children, I'm just glad. I won't be lonely. Grandmother was transported with all her belongings, and Serafima Vasilyevna turned out to be so kind, cultured, and calm. Asya was delighted with such a new dwelling. Most of all, she was afraid that the room might be bought for some alcoholic. And here is such a charm. Grandma. Serafima Vasilyevna became so integrated into Asya's family that it seemed as if she had always lived here. If before Asya had no one to help with the children, now Serafima Vasilyevna was happy to help her. She entertained the boys with her stories about her past life, read books to them, walked with them in the yard, and took them to the pool, which was not far from their house. She baked pancakes for the children, and they, in turn, called Serafima Vasilyevna our grandmother. That's how it all turned out. Once a week, Serafima Vasilyevna was visited by her grandson Kirill. He brought food and sweets to his grandmother and enjoyed communicating with Asya and the boys. I'm so glad that we bought a room from you, Kirill once said to Asya. Don't think that I regretted the money and did not buy a full-fledged apartment for my grandmother. She didn't want to live alone. She used to be a teacher in a rural school, and she really needs communication with children. I haven't started a family and children yet. I rent a room in a dorm. For obvious reasons, I couldn't put my grandmother in a dorm. You yourself understand what kind of contingent there is, but you have a real paradise for her. Mom died last year, and Grandma is old. She can't be left alone. We sold a house in the village, and with this money we bought a room from you. They didn't buy it from me, Asya corrected. From my ex-husband. Kirill smiled and said, well, it's not that important. It's important that Grandma is happy with you, and I'm glad about that. Your Kirill is a pleasant young man, Asya praised Serafima Vasilyevna's grandson. And he loves you so much and takes care of you. I couldn't be happier with him myself, Asyatka. Granny addressed Asya so affectionately. I really want him to get a good girl, like you. Nowadays there are few good girls, and we don't have any wealth. I pray for him. Maybe the Lord will hear my prayer and be merciful to Kiryusha. And the Lord heard Serafima Vasilyevna's prayers, and Kirill began to visit his grandmother Asya and her boys more often. The boys rejoiced at his arrival, hung on him, pulled him by the hands into their room so that Uncle Kirill could play with them. Then they drank tea with sweets all over the place. Serafima Vasilievna took the boys to bed, and Kirill and Asya sat for a long time in the kitchen, talking and drinking tea. Kirill invited Asya and his sons for walks in the park, where the boys rode on carousels, and Kirill and Asya enjoyed communicating with each other. Serafima Vasilievna saw that something was happening between her grandson and Asya. From the outside it was more visible, but she drove these thoughts away from herself. Kiryusha is young, Asya is already a woman with 2 children, and she is 9 years older than Kirill. Such a misalliance. Serafima Vasilievna was afraid that something like this would happen between her grandson and Asya, and then it wouldn't work out. But she had to live with Asya and the boys. They had become family to her. What a surprise Serafima Vasilievna was when, after 7 months of her living with Asya and the boys, Kirill and Asya announced to her their decision to get married. Asya is understandable, a mature woman. She understands what she's doing, but Kirill, he's just your formal grandmother. He will always be a boy. Serafima Vasilievna had a serious conversation alone with her grandson and realized that he marries Asya out of love and with all responsibility. Asya, a voice familiar to her, called out. She turned around. Arkady, smiling widely, came up to her and hugged her. I'm glad to see you, and I look. Whether you are or not, it turns out you are, he said. You have become such a beauty, even younger. Asya shrugged her shoulders and pushed Arkady away from her. How are you? Apparently good, if you look like that. I live well, answered Asya. Better than before. His appraising gaze slid over her figure and stopped at her waist. Are you pregnant? Arkady was surprised. Yes. Married? Married. And who is this lucky guy? Arkady smiled wryly. Asya knew that smile of his. When he wanted to hide his anger, he always smiled like that. The guy to whom you sold the room, the ex-wife calmly answered. Arkady laughed so loudly that passers-by began to turn around at such loud emotions. So I got you a husband? Arkady continued to laugh. So he's very young. You haven't seen any worthy men. So have you switched to young people? Arkady continued to amuse himself. Nothing stopped you from switching to young people. Why am I worse? I am a man. A man should always be older than a woman. As you can see, not always, said Asya. She no longer wanted to listen to her ex-husband as he was, so he remained. Moreover, Kirill had already left the store, loaded with bags of groceries, and her sons Kostya and Seryozha were running next to him. Asya hurried to meet them. They got into the car and drove away. Damn. Arkady was angry. His Aska found another, and from everything it is clear that she is happy, and his sons ran past and did not even notice him. And he lives with this hysterical Lida, who throws hysterics at him several times a day. But no, he is not going to marry Lida. People like her don't get married. People like her go crazy. They marry people like Aska. That's why she got married so quickly.